What's good, YouTube? Welcome back to MKE MANIACI, and today we got 7 major WWE pushes canceled by suspensions from partsFUNknown, man. Now, you don't really hear about it too much now, but I say, after we lost Eddie, for at least those first 4 years, man, it's been bad. We've seen so many suspensions, a lot of top guys that have been fired, for violating the policy, derailing their push, and we gonna check out 7 of them in this video, so let's get it.
As sleigh bells ring and chestnuts roast, Santa Claus is checking his list twice to figure out which WWE superstars have been naughty or nice. In 2023, there should be nothing but lovely gifts in everyone's stockings, but in years past, that was very much not the case. Suspensions have historically come as the payment for a particularly good time out, or a way to make a big meaty man bigger and meatier, and some of those suspensions have come at particularly bad times for those who have received them, resulting in them having to remove the rocket that has been strapped to their backs. But, more importantly, they probably got coal in their stockings that year. Merry holiday. I'm Tempest hailing from partsFUNknown, and these are 7 major WWE pushes canceled by suspensions. But before we get on with this list, make sure that you like this video, subscribe, and go over to our Patreon, where we have a full exclusive episode of Survival Series, where we recount every single pay-per-view main event of 2023. Number 7, Randy Orton. Survivor Series has come and gone, and family Mandy Randy Orton has finally returned. Ain't that just dandy? Certainly the most newsworthy thing to come out of that show. Wink. But while Randy seems like a chilled out viper these days, in his youth, he was known as one of the bigger dickheads of the WWE locker room, something that got him on the bad side of talent and management over time. Orton has 3 suspensions to his name in WWE, which you would think would violate WWE's 3-strike policy and result in his termination. But when you're one of the company's golden geese, you can never really be on management's bad side. The latter 2 came in periods where Orton was floating around the card with not much on, but the first suspension came in 2006, the week of WrestleMania. The story goes that Orton smoked some of the devil's lettuce backstage after a match and was suspended immediately after WrestleMania 22 for his bad behavior. Now, those who...
Randy Orton, 2006 was that suspension, and then it was the whole rumors of him being a womanizer. You gotta remember, I'm not making excuses for it, but Randy Orton was 26 at that time, so he was young. You ascend up the card, you doing the thing, getting a little more money, a little more fame, pretty boy, you get it, you know what I mean? But yeah, Randy Orton should have been out of there. He should have been out of there. And I know it's a lot of conspiracies, people saying, WWE kind of turns a blind eye to certain people. And they even threw Randy Orton's name in the mix because Orton has a lot of pull backstage. Orton has gotten people, out of WWE, allegedly. So, yeah, Orton, the 3-strike policy, Orton would have been released. He would have been released.
You know me, know I get along with Mary Jane, but I don't think blazing up in the studio after a podcast would go down very well. It wasn't in question that Rey Mysterio was going to leave Mania with the big gold belt, but Orton's suspension kept him from being one of Rey's immediate challengers, ending his first resurgence into the world title scene in over a year. Number 6, R-Truth. R-Truth has played the role of goofball comedy guy in WWE for most of his career, with 2011 being the lone example of Truth being a serious character. Well, as serious a character as he could be, as he talked to an imaginary fan named Lil Jimmy, confused acrophobia with arachnophobia, and said the name Air Boom sounded like a sneaky fart. But he was a heel, so it was something different. And this heel run led to a main event tag match against The Rock and John Cena, so it isn't outlandish to say that this was the peak of his WWE run. But that run came to a screeching halt precisely 1 day after that tag match at Survivor Series, as The Miz turned on Truth on Raw, followed immediately by WWE announcing Truth had violated the wellness policy. It was the death blow that killed what little momentum Truth had from earlier in the year when he actually showed signs of being interesting, and while Truth would return a month later and have a run-in with The Miz in the notoriously 2012 Royal Rumble, he never got close to the 2 pay-per-view main events he had in 2011.
R-Truth, I remember when he got suspended, I was like, yo, think about it. 2011 was a great year for R-Truth. It was a great year for Truth, man. The whole capital punishment main event against Cena. The little Jimmy thing, man, it's not talked about enough, but R-Truth made that look like money. Main event Survivor Series against John Cena and The Rock. How many people can say that they did that? It definitely derailed R-Truth, I think. I'm not going to say that they had bigger plans for Truth after Survivor Series, but I think him and The Miz probably would have had a little more You know, they had a big play in that whole, you know, the whole roster versus Triple H time. You know, when they interfered in Hell in a Cell that year, they got arrested. Like, they had a big part of Monday Night Raw. So yeah, it was sad though to see R-Truth go out like that.
11. Number 5. Rey Mysterio.
Yeah.
2009 was one of the better years for the WWE Intercontinental Championship, due in no small part to Rey Mysterio and his rivalries with Chris Jericho and Dolph Ziggler.
Yeah.
In terms of being pushed as one of the top wrestlers in the company, 2009 was actually one of the better years of Mysterio's career as well. Or it was, until poor Ray got slapped with a 30-day suspension in September for violating WWE's wellness policy, resulting in his immediate dropping of the IC title to John Morrison.
Yeah.
It came out of nowhere too. Ray had just successfully defended the title in a fantastic SummerSlam opening match against Ziggler, beating him for the second pay-per-view in a row, and then bam, he loses the title to Morrison instead.
Yeah.
Always felt that was weird, especially as Ziggler wouldn't win the Intercontinental title for the first time until almost a year later. Upon his return, Mysterio was getting booed by fans at Hell in a Cell, and he was relegated to being brutally beaten by Batista for the rest of the year.
You know, I'm not gonna say, you know, Rey Mysterio's push was canceled. You know, yes, he had a great run as Intercontinental Champion, but he ended up becoming World Heavyweight Champion like not too long after his suspension. So, you know, it wasn't like canceled. He had a big program with Batista that year. You know, the match with the Undertaker at the Rumble. Rey's just one of those guys, you know, he's already cemented. A lot like Randy, you can't really, you know, derail and cancel the push because they're premium superstars.
Whether or not he would have been as heavily involved in Batista's all-time great "you were supposed to be my friend" heel turn had he not been excommunicated from the IC title scene, we will never know. But the sharp downturn in the ferocity of Rey's push post-suspension was as apparent as the setup to the 619. Honestly, this entry could have been for the IC title as well, considering that a month after Morrison won the thing, he was losing to The Miz at bragging rights. But a belt can't get suspended as far as we know, so let's move on to number 4. William Regal. I have learned a few things during my time living in England. Brits lose their shit if the temperature isn't between 10 and 20 degrees Celsius, never order fish and chips from a pub, and everyone loves William Regal.
Facts.
Regal was one of the most underrated WWE stars during the 2000s, often being subjected to the butt of many a joke, like teaming with Eugene, getting his tea pissed in, or putting his lips on Vince McMahon's derriere.
You talk about a company guy, William Regal deserves to be in that Hall of Fame, man. Intercontinental Champion, his tag team championship run. He was general manager of Raw, King of the Ring. Like, come on, give William Regal his flowers.
All because he was guilty of the crime of being a wrestler. But for one brief time, it looked as if Willie Reeves was finally going to break through into the upper echelon of the WWE roster when he won the King of the Ring tournament in 2008. William Regal, King of the Ring, was a title that tasted like a buttered crumpet when said, and things
William Regal was one of my favorite King of the Ring.
Started on a pretty positive note, with Regal going on a power trip during his first few weeks, storming into the production truck, and ending Raw prematurely while Triple H and Randy Orton were wrestling over the WWE Championship. But just as he started being opposed by the freshly turned babyface Mr. Kennedy, Regal was hit with his second wellness policy violation and was suspended for 60 days. He was fired in kayfabe before returning a couple months later, but by that time he was King of the Ring in Titantron graphic alone. His push was dead, and while he did manage to capture the Intercontinental Championship for a final time, he lost it 2 months later with 0 proper title defenses to his somewhat royal name. Number 3, Jeff Hardy. 11-year-old Tempest learned disappointment at wrestling for the first time in his next-door neighbor's basement, learning the news that Jeff Hardy had been suspended and would miss WrestleMania 24.
I think Jeff Hardy, when he missed WrestleMania 24, because that was the time his house burned down, he missed WrestleMania. Like, bro just had the worst luck. Hardy, I think, got the most suspensions out of everybody that's ever been in the WWE.
Oh, to go back and let that little Tempest know that everything would work out. The beginning of 2008 was a great time to be a Jeff Hardy fan. He was getting his first sustained main event push in WWE and was seizing the moment, having talked about matches and angles on Raw leading up to a close match with Randy Orton at the '08 Royal Rumble. He was the runner-up in the Elimination Chamber and then immediately qualified for the Money in the Bank ladder match. Little Tempest may not have known this at the time, but the plan internally was to have Jeff finally get a win at WrestleMania and be crowned Mr. Money in the Bank.
Really though? Like, I felt like for WrestleMania 24, I think Jericho was my pick to win Money in the Bank that year. You know, I was very shocked when CM Punk won it. You know, Hardy would have been cool though, but my logic at that time, like, okay, he had a couple WWE Championship matches already. You know, like, Does he, get Money in the Bank and get back in the picture? So my pick was honestly Jericho. I really wanted Jericho to become WWE champion.
It would have been the biggest win of his career to that point, but then Hardy failed a wellness test, dropped the Intercontinental Championship to Chris Jericho, and was suspended for 60 days, missing WrestleMania and losing any chance he may have had to climb the thing and do the thing to win the thing.
Yep.
That distinction fell to CM Punk, so at least WWE landed on their feet, but Hardy had to go back several spaces and build his momentum back up to the main event level. Yep. Thankfully for Little Tempest, Jeff would ultimately go on to win the WWE Championship at Armageddon that December and give Tempest the lesson that sometimes things work out in wrestling too.
Facts.
Number 2, Mr. Kennedy.
Mr.
However,
Kennedy.
not everyone is so lucky. Yes, there have been a number of people on this list that were able to find success again once their suspensions derailed their momentum. Unfortunately for Mr. Kennedy, the same cannot be said for everyone. I don't think I have ever seen a wrestler have more bad luck concentrated into 1 year than Mr. Kennedy had in 2007.
Man.
He began the year by winning the Money in the Bank
Money in
ladder
the
match
Bank.
before a false injury diagnosis led to him dropping the briefcase to Edge so he could go get surgery, only to find out he did not need it. But hey, he's just a little unlucky. He's still good. But then Kennedy got drafted to Raw and was slated to be revealed as Mr. McMahon's illegitimate son,
Yep.
a character that would have carried him through to a high-profile match at WrestleMania 24.
Yeah.
But then the steroid scandal of 2007 happened, and a merry band of WWE wrestlers all got suspended at once. And who might have been among them but Mr. Kennedy.
Yeah.
And as we all know, he was suspended. Vince's son was revealed to be Hornswoggle before it was simply revealed that lol JK, no he's not. And never again did Mr. Kennedy get within a microphone's echo of the main event picture again.
I loved Mr. Kennedy. Not just because he was from Wisconsin, but it's just the fact, like, he had one of the most impressive rising star stories, man. He beat, 6 world champions when he came, first debuted in the WWE. He had a great program with The Undertaker. He challenged Batista for the world championship. He won Money in the Bank. They even, when he came back, like, he had what was his ultimate, like, dismissal? I think he got into it with Randy Orton. It was something with Orton. That's like the whole rumor of why he left, man. But losing Money in the Bank like that, he was guaranteed to be world heavyweight champion. He was a great talker. To even, like, be considered for the Vince McMahon storyline, which was one of the biggest talking points of Raw at that time, was who was Vince McMahon's son, Vincent Kennedy McMahon. It only made sense, like, man, like, you fumbled. Come on, Mr. Kennedy.
I feel like I'm forgetting something. Kennedy. And number 1, Rob Van
Oh
Dam.
my God.
Rob was gonna be the champ, but then he got something. I'm working on it. It shouldn't be news to anyone that Rob Van Dam is a fan of blazing it up and smoking that herb.
Yeah.
I mean, he's practically the wrestling face of weed, but you probably couldn't find a better example of a time not to get high than Rob Van Dam's 2006 arrest while being WWE champion and ECW champion.
2
For all
champs.
2 of you WWE CW fans.
Bro was literally the champion of 2 of the 3 rosters, and you fumbled it. Like, come on.
Just weeks removed from his title win over John Cena at One Night Stand 2006, RVD and Sabu were pulled over for speeding when the Fuzz found 18 grams of marijuana and 5 Vicodin pills on the champ. He may have been able to produce a prescription for the Vicodin, but a drug arrest meant Rob was heading for a suspension, which he received just days later after dropping the WWE Championship to Edge and the ECW Championship to The Big Show. And as
Big Show's run, let's not even talk about that.
we all know, the words ECW Championship and Big Show should never be uttered in the same sentence.
No.
Van Dam was then suspended for 30 days, and when he got back, he never returned to the WWE main event picture, even for a moment, leaving the company the following year.
You know what's crazy, though? I sometimes think if RVD never got suspended and he at least kept the ECW Championship, I knew he wouldn't be WWE champion for long because you had Edge and Cena coming for that title. But if he kept the ECW title, do y'all feel like ECW in 2006 and 2007 would have been in disarray like it was? Big Show as champion was just terrible. It was a terrible idea. They could have put the title on Balls Mahoney or Sandman for all I cared. We needed an ECW original as champion, and RVD being suspended so quick, I was honestly pretty disappointed. I've always liked RVD. He was always one of my favorites, very underrated. And, you finally get that push, and then you do that, and then, you leave the company, not too soon after that.
Very least, Rob got to make it to the mountaintop before his suspension, unlike dear old Kennedy. But my God, for the fans that had been waiting years to see Rob Van Dam reach WWE's peak, this was a gut punch with the ferocity of the kind of cough you do when you hit the gas too hard. And that's our list. Please make sure that you like this.
Man, 7 major WWE pushes canceled by suspensions, man. Y'all let me know. Anybody else you could think of, man? You know, there's been so many names. From Booker T, we could even say Matt Riddle. There's more names that we could say. You know, there's been a lot of suspensions, man. So sound off in the comment section down below. If you are new to the channel, hit that subscribe button for me if y'all rock with me and want more wrestling related content. And until the next video, I'll see y'all then. Thank you for watching MKE Maniaci. I'm out.